Walls that love broke through. The first time inmate 4471, Maya Colson, saw Officer Daria Wells walk through the gray corridor of Hartwell Correctional Facility, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. She felt seen. Not watched. Not surveilled. Not cataloged like a number on a file. Seen. Daria moved through that prison like someone who hadn't forgotten that the women inside, it were still women, still human, still capable of something, more than the crimes that had swallowed their years whole. And Maya, sitting in the corner of the common room with a dog-eared novel pressed against her chest and a wall built around her heart that was thicker than any concrete Hartwell could offer, watched her and felt the first crack form in everything she had worked so hard to protect. Maya had come to Hartwell 3 years earlier on a fraud conviction, the kind of crime born not from greed, but from desperation. A single mother who had falsified financial documents to keep her sick daughter enrolled in a private medical program when the insurance companies turned their backs. The judge had been unmoved by her story. The system had processed her the same way it processed everyone, efficiently, coldly, and without regard for the human architecture that would be dismantled in the process. Her daughter Lily had been placed with Maya's older sister in Georgia. Maya sent letters every week. Some weeks Lily wrote back. Some weeks the silence was louder than the prison itself. She had learned to survive Hartwell the way most women did, by shrinking. By making herself small enough to avoid the worst of it. By building a reputation for being quiet and compliant. By never showing anyone what she was actually feeling beneath the surface. She read constantly, disappearing into stories the way she had once disappeared into her daughter's laughter. She avoided conflict, avoided intimacy, avoided anything that might crack open the careful numbness she had constructed around herself. She had 2 years left on her sentence and a plan that was as simple as it was desperate. Survive. Get out, get back to Lily, and never look back. Daria Wells arrived at Hartwell as a transfer from a county facility across the state, assigned as a correctional officer on Maya's block. She was tall, with the kind of quiet confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Her skin was a deep, rich brown, and her eyes carried something that most officers at Hartwell didn't: patience. Real patience. The kind that comes not from training or policy, but from a life that has taught you to look at people before you judge them. She was professional, firm when she needed to be, but she treated the inmates with a dignity that was so unusual in that environment that it unsettled people at first. Women who had learned to brace for condescension didn't know what to do when none came. Daria would ask how someone's day was and actually wait for the answer. She remembered names, not just last names and numbers, but first names, the names their mothers had given them, the names that belonged to the lives they had lived before the walls closed in. It started slowly, the way the most important things always do. Daria noticed Maya's books first, noticed the way Maya read like someone searching for something, the way her brow furrowed over certain passages, and her lips moved slightly when a sentence moved her. One afternoon during a routine check of the common room, Daria paused beside Maya's chair and asked what she was reading. Maya looked up, guarded and cautious, and told her the title. Daria's face opened into something warm, and she said she had read that book twice. That was all. She moved on. But Maya sat there holding the book to her chest and feeling something move through her chest that she hadn't been able to name for a long time. The conversations grew from there the way conversations do when two people are honest with each other. Gradually, then suddenly, Daria would stop during her rounds and they would exchange a few words. About books first, then about stories, then about life. Maya was careful. She had learned that hope was a dangerous thing inside Hartwell, that caring too much about anything was a vulnerability that could be exploited. But Daria was patient in a way that didn't demand anything, didn't push or pressure or extract. She simply showed up consistently, with that quiet warmth, and Maya found herself looking forward to her shifts, in a way that frightened her and sustained her in equal measure. There was an evening in the prison library. Maya had been given library duty as part of her work assignment when Daria stopped in to return a book she had borrowed on behalf of another inmate. The library was quiet, almost empty. and they ended up sitting across from each other at one of the low wooden tables, talking for nearly 40 minutes while the fluorescent lights hummed above them. Maya told Daria about Lily that night. She hadn't told anyone about Lily in months. She talked about her daughter's laugh, the way Lily used to fall asleep in the car, the way she smelled like lavender soap, the way Maya's whole chest ached every single morning when she woke up and remembered where she was and where Lily wasn't. By the time she stopped talking, her eyes were full of tears she refused to let fall. Daria didn't say the things most people say in those moments, didn't offer hollow comfort or easy assurance. She just looked at Maya steadily and said that Lily had a mother who was fighting for her even from inside these walls, and that meant more than Maya probably understood. Something in Maya broke open then, not catastrophically but gently, the way ice breaks in spring, not all at once but in long, slow cracks that let the water breathe. The feeling that was growing between them was something neither of them named for a long time, because naming it would have made it real, and real meant dangerous. Daria was an officer. Maya was an inmate. The rules were clear, the consequences severe, and both of them knew it. But feelings do not consult rulebooks. They don't ask for permission or evaluate risk assessments. They simply arise, persistent and inconvenient and profound. In the space between two people who have truly looked at each other, Maya had not allowed herself to feel desire or tenderness or longing in years. She had closed those rooms inside herself and bolted the doors. But Daria's presence unlocked something she hadn't known was still alive in her. A hunger not just for touch but for connection, for being known, for existing in someone else's eyes as something more than a mistake or a number or a burden. Daria struggled with it too. She had a career she had built carefully, a reputation built on integrity, a life outside the facility that was orderly and controlled. She knew the ethical line she was approaching. She pulled back several times, became more formal, kept her visits to Maya brief and professional. But professionalism is a thin armor against genuine feeling. She would find herself thinking about something Maya had said during a quiet moment at work. She would finish a book and immediately want to tell Maya what she thought of it. She would drive home after a long shift and sit in her car in the driveway, for longer than she needed to, thinking about those eyes, that voice, the way Maya held herself like someone who had survived a war but hadn't yet been told it was over. The crisis came on an ordinary Thursday. Another inmate, threatened by the fragile warmth that had begun to exist between Maya and Daria, reported to the warden that an inappropriate relationship was developing. Maya was called into the administrative office and questioned. She denied everything, because technically there was nothing to deny. Nothing had crossed the line. Nothing improper had occurred beyond conversations that had felt, to both of them, like lifelines. But Daria was assigned to a different block, pending a brief review, and the sudden withdrawal of her presence hit Maya like a physical thing. The absence was its own kind of confession. She hadn't realized how much she had been breathing because of Daria. Until the air was gone, she wrote Daria a letter. She wasn't supposed to. She knew it could make things worse. But she sat in her cell in the dark after lights out and wrote 3 pages by the light of the hallway bleeding under her door. And she said everything she had been afraid to say, that she knew this was impossible, that she knew there were walls between them that might never come down, but that Daria had reminded her that she was still capable of feeling something real, that being seen by Daria had been the most human she had felt in 3 years, and that whatever happened next, she was grateful to exist in a world where someone like Daria was in it. She sealed the letter, and then held it for 2 days before slipping it under the door of the administrative office addressed to Daria personally. She never knew if Daria received it. The review concluded without serious consequence. Daria was reassigned back to Maya's block 6 weeks later. The first morning she returned, she walked past Maya in the corridor during morning count and paused for just a half-second, long enough for her eyes to find Maya's, long enough for something to pass between them that held every word neither of them could say out loud. Maya looked back at her steadily, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt the particular and extraordinary courage of choosing to feel something, even when feeling it might break you. The story of Maya and Daria does not end with grand gestures or dramatic reunions. Real love, the kind that forms in impossible places between people who should not be able to reach each other, is quieter than that. Maya served her remaining 2 years and was released on a Tuesday morning in April. She walked out of Hartwell with a bag that held everything she owned, and a heart that was fuller than when she'd entered, which was not the outcome anyone designs for a prison, but which was real nonetheless. She went back to Lily. She built a life. She carried Daria inside her the way we carry the people who save us, not in our hands, but in something deeper, in the changed shape of who we are. Daria requested a transfer to a rehabilitation-focused program 6 months after Maya's release, a community reintegration initiative that worked with formerly incarcerated women. She told herself it was simply the next step in her career. She told herself a lot of things. The first time she saw Maya's name on a volunteer list for that program, she stood very still for a long moment, and then she smiled, slowly with her whole face, in a way that the empty hallway did not deserve but received anyway. If you followed this story all the way to here, if something in it moved you or reminded you that love finds its way into the most closed and guarded spaces, please take a moment to leave a comment below and tell us what part of this story stayed with you. Your words matter more than you know, and this community grows when we share what touches us. Some loves are born in sunlight and easy soil. Others grow in concrete and silence, in stolen minutes and careful glances, in the kind of tenderness that survives because it has no other choice. Maya and Daria never asked for an easy love. They got a real one instead, and real, as anyone who has lived long enough knows, is always worth more than easy. If this story reached something in you, if it reminded you that dignity and connection can exist even in the hardest places, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to believe in love today. Because kindness shared is kindness multiplied, and stories like this one deserve to be heard by every heart that is still willing to feel.